From Transport Topics in Washington, D.C., this is RoadSigns. And now here's your host, Michael Fries.
Thank you for listening to RoadSigns, the podcast series from Transport Topics that explores the trends and technologies that are shaping the future of trucking. As we move into the month of September, we celebrate the worker who is solely responsible for the lion's share of our economy's movement. We're talking about the truck driver. RoadSigns will devote the month of September as Trucker Appreciation Month. In this series, we'll speak to industry leaders about the main engine that keeps our roads busy and our businesses moving. In this episode, we'll ask the question, what can truck drivers do to stay healthy around their busy schedules? Physical and mental health has increased in awareness over the years. Being a truck driver in a sedentary position for long periods of time can put a wrench in one's fitness goals. What can drivers and fleets do to overcome this and achieve a healthy lifestyle? For the answer, we welcome to the podcast Stephen Kane of Rolling Strong, a fitness and wellness company catered toward truck drivers. Welcome to the show, Stephen.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Thanks so much.
Glad to have you on. Just for our guests, Rolling Strong is a fitness and wellness company that uses a mobile app to help carriers and drivers improve their overall health and wellness, among other things. Just to kind of put that out there for our guests. Stephen, once again, I'm glad to have you on as part of Trucker Appreciation Month. We'll be talking about wellness and health, and I felt that you were a great person to speak about this. But before we get to all the things that Rolling Strong does, and just your take on the overall health of drivers and what carriers are doing in that regard. I definitely want to hear your backstory, because you definitely have an interesting life when it comes to this, and you're really passionate about it in the conversations that I've had with you. So just tell us about your backstory and how it all led to Rolling Strong.
Sure. That's a great question. Hopefully we have enough time for that. But you ever go through life and you go through these random experiences and you wonder why me, or you have different learning experiences and they don't always add up to where you're going in your career. I guess all of that applies to the backstory, because I've always been very intrigued about people and about things and educating myself. And so I've had various areas of study, and I've had just lots of experiences in life. And I can remember at one point saying, wow, this is all coming together for a reason, for a purpose. And so I'll highlight some of those things. But number one, I mean, my dad had trucks. He was an entrepreneur and had several businesses, one of which was a trucking company. And out of all the things he did, I just thought that was the coolest. And so, I learned how to, change tires and PM the truck, and eventually was able to go on runs with my older brother and unload. And then, after college, I thought, I want to go drive a truck. So I went to, CDL school and jumped in a truck and figured I'd, maybe there's a way I can use what my studies from college and some of my other experiences, and maybe build towards something bigger in trucking. And, so that was kind of the foothills of my journey. And, it just so happened that I also was very athletic. I, boxed, I wrestled, I, boxed in college. I, and was always interested in the physical aspect of it. And I had challenges. So, I'm not one of these people that was a born athlete. I wasn't born with a washboard stomach, and, where it just came easy for me. I, had to run the extra laps to keep up with the other kids. I had to, it was always a challenge, and then when I was 19, I got in a motorcycle accident, and I broke my skull, my back, my shoulder, my ankle. I woke up a day later in the hospital and was in pretty rough shape. And, and so that kind of slowed me down a bit. But through the years, I worked, for Allied Van Lines, great opportunity, hard work. I, worked for a regional P&D company in the Carolinas for a while. And then I had a wonderful opportunity to get on with a big carrier. Old Dominion Freight Line was fantastic. Real great experience for me, learned a lot. But during the time that I was at the carrier in Carolinas, Piedmont, I was diagnosed with cancer. And that was all these different challenges and growing through life like we all do. And I finally felt like I was at the pinnacle of my success. I was an ops manager. I was running this little dispatch office. I I had a 2-year-old at home. I, had a little, double wide modular. I, felt like, hey, I'm getting there. And all of a sudden you go into the doctors one day and they tell you have, cancer, and it's metastasized into your lymph nodes. And, so it was a rough bout. I was allergic to the particular, cocktail of chemotherapy. So I had to go live up at Wake Forest Baptist Hospital. The silver lining in that was that the entire um, truck driving staff at Piedmont back then donated an hour of their paycheck a week for months and months, so I could go through surgeries and I can go through chemotherapy, and that resonated with me. And I got back to the workforce and in a financial crunch, and trying to pay the huge out of pocket and copays and everything else. I eventually ended up at OD, where I, had a fantastic insurance plan and good pay and all that. And I kind of started over as a driver. Um, and I always moonlighted on the side as a coach, coaching boxing. And that led to owning boxing and kickboxing schools. And so, I've always been passionate. I was passionate about, everything that I was doing with, the boxing kids programs, the community, and, equally, at a company that I was at, able to learn just so much, about the infrastructure of trucking and the bigger picture, when you got into all the different operations that a company like that has. Um, and, I started kind of nurturing this idea in the back of my head that, I wanted to give back, right? These drivers that had really saved my life, with their contribution, and in which, by the way, also included they bought me a Trek bicycle and put it in my living room, so that while I was getting better, I had this motivation that once I got through chemo, that I could get back on this bike, and ride to work, which I did. And I still have that Trek bike. And so, I always had it in the back of my mind. And at one point, I was responsible for deploying a telematics system to the fleet that I was with, and doing all the training and the data analytics, and I was very hungry, right? So I was self-teaching myself data science and process improvement and IT and code and software, and so at some point I just kind of had this vision in my head of how you can take fitness and nutrition, and you can take technology, and you can take transportation, and you can mash them all together. And I saw the need for this enterprise level scalable platform that could be built and deployed to this industry to really help truck drivers and give them tools that they need. Because I could remember going into, wellness screening events, and if you were lucky enough, with your start time or your finish time for that day, even as a local driver, to even get your wellness screening, let alone follow up with somebody that can help give you guidance and direction. And so, the idea had been birthed, about this concept. And, so I left, the corporate world and started a consulting practice, and started building this idea. At the time was called Truck Fit. And I started building that out on whiteboards in my apartment. And it was great. And I built, helped build a software for another company called Velocity, and and was very involved in that. And they also had an interest in helping drivers. Their business model is to keep trucks, moving on the road, and keep the aftermarket systems moving, but they also were interested in keeping the person behind the wheel moving. And in an age where we have, lane departure and forward collision avoidance and ELD and trailer tracking and tire pressure monitoring and all these things, it was always crazy to me that we didn't have something that focused on the actual human being that's behind the wheel of the truck, like not just the mitigation, not just the afterthought training, but how do we prepare these people so that when they get behind the wheel, they're alert, they're attentive, they're focused, and we can really reduce accidents and worker comp and insurance cost. So I was lucky. I mean, Velocity jumped in and funded this idea, and we started building Truck Fit. We actually acquired another company called Rolling Strong, And they had a great footprint for coaching and other things and that kind of thing. And so that's, when you talk about the name Rolling Strong, that's where that name came from. But my vision, my origin of this business was actually used to be called Truck Fit. We were a little worried about the name of that, and maybe other people not wanting us to use that Truck Fit name. It was too much like CrossFit. But anyways, so I did that, and we've been very fortunate. We've grown this program. We've always stuck to our core values and our roots, which is how do we build things that make sense to the frontline truck drivers. And we also learned along the way that you have to make that appealing to HR groups and safety groups and executive teams. So you really have to cater to both. And I guess on the other side of that, what you have is a when you talk about Rolling Strong being an app, I mean, really it's a very elaborate platform. We've really built this out extensively. It's intricate in its design. It does have a mobile app that's a piece of it. I mean, but our secret sauce is our coaching. Our coaches they're just out of this world. They're fantastic. You'd find that if anybody you talk to within our company, they care about helping people. They know these drivers. They live and breathe this with these drivers every day. And I'm proud of that. It feels good to be proud of a team that has that kind of passion. But we've done a lot of neat things. I mean, we've integrated with Fitbit and Garmin and Polar, and we have partnerships with CVS Health and Walmart pharmacies, and we handle everything from biometric screenings to the tracking of daily activities and points and reward systems to help motivate and drive people forward. And on the personal side of it, I also have stuck to them roots, because I can remember when I was building this, in the truck fit days, and I remember, just a picture was taken to me at one point, and I was, overweight, and I was doing the same thing that I preach against, right? I wasn't finding that balance, and I was, putting everything into, working and building this company, and really it's about, for most of it's balance, right? We don't all have the time to be an elite athlete and spend 3 hours a day in the gym and all that. So we have to find balance. And so I actually did. I became a member of my own program. I have a director of operations who was my coach in the beginning, Joni Allen, fantastic lady who was very passionate about helping me. I checked in with her as my coach every week. I used the mobile app, and I went from barely being able to run a half mile to running my first 5K that was actually at an ATA 5K that we sponsored, and completing it without stopping and walking. And then I went on to run 10Ks and eventually a half marathon and eventually a marathon in that same year. And then I moved on to triathlons. And right now I'm actually currently training for a full Ironman. I'll do a half Ironman in California next month in September, and then I'll do a full Ironman in Panama City Beach. So my balance is running Rolling Strong from 7 a.m. until 5 or 6 p.m. and then every night you'll find me out there running 15 miles or biking 50 or swimming 2. So
From time to time, an issue commands so much of the industry's attention that it requires a deeper dive, a resource readers can turn to, a Transport Topics special report. We're turning our attention to another big issue, electrification and the key factors that will drive this industry trend. In every case, we're working to provide our readers with information, analysis, and clarity on key issues confronting fleets. One comprehensive resource packed with insights that can give you the edge. Transport Topics invites you to learn more about our special reports. To reserve your copy of the latest special report, visit ttn.ws/electrification.
Were you able to catch our technology and maintenance event, Retool? If not, you have the opportunity to reimagine conversations between the corner office and the repair shop by texting Retool to 474747. That's Retool to 474747. Tune in to deep discussions about equipment, technology, big picture trucking trends, and the launch of our new quarterly maintenance supplement, Calibrate. Join us for a Launch and Learn special geared toward your business. I'm a runner too, so it's nice to hear that just the routines that other runners do to I guess to scratch that itch when it comes to running. That's an obsession. Um, first of all, it's fortunate that you can find a passion that you have, such as yours, in physical activity, in working out, and addressing a need in the industry. And it just kind of just brings me to the work of Rolling Strong. And I just kind of want to talk about the wellness program and the platform and the app that you have. And as I understand, drivers in fleets can subscribe to this particular service, and where they enroll, and they can set up a individual profile with just kind of like their health metrics and or their fitness goals and things like that. Being in that, you said you remember yourself. So if a driver wants to take advantage of this, and they're enrolled in your service, and they have a profile, what are some of the features and the benefits that they are getting out of this?
Sure, sure. Well, I mean, I'll back that up just a tiny bit because so we have three different market focuses. So we have corporate, we have transportation, and we have individual. So for an individual, they can go on the app store, they can download our app, and then that gives them access to all these different wellness services. Um, if it's a fleet, then it really is a whole it's a whole managed service program, which means we give them an account manager and a coach, and we actually have physical devices that we put in the locations, these health check stations, and we handle, we facilitate all the annual screenings and so on and so forth. And then more recently, within the last year, we've moved over to corporate populations because we found that it's equally as important to have the back office, the dispatchers, the people working in safety, and certainly the leadership team as engaged in a wellness program as the drivers are, because we all know from studies that drivers often feel siloed. And this is a great way to bring everybody together for just one good common wholehearted cause, right? Just let's have fun and get healthy. And so we have a lot of things that we do to bring that culture together and create that healthy culture, through that kind of fun, optimistic environment. And so, when you now start drilling that down, so in other words, when we go into a fleet and we start marketing the program, and we, start getting people to be aware of it, some people will sign up right away. Some people are like, they're on the fence, but then they go get a DOT physical and they get a short-term card, or New Year's comes around and they realize they gained 10 pounds. And we like to be that, very kind of open door, very approachable source for them, that they're like, what, I've heard about Rolling Strong, and I think I'm going to give it a try. And so now you get to the point where either a owner operator out there, or a person working for a company says, sign me up. And when they sign up, there's a lot of different things that they have access to. Not everybody is going to use all of the things because there's really so much of it, but our coaches are going to help them find the things that work best for them. So our coaches have a very, they all have degrees, bachelor's degrees in either kinesiology, nutrition. We have an assistant physical therapist on staff. So collectively they can cover the whole psychology. So they sports nutrition. So they, collectively they all, cover the entire kind of array of wellness. And so now I'm a member on the program, and my coach is going to work with me, and they're going to interview me and try to understand what my challenges are. Maybe they're going to work with me to get an assessment so we can actually look at numbers. And then we're going to set goals. Goals are very important: short-term goals, long-term goals. And then Rolling Strong has 5 pillars of its wellness approach. So sleep, nutrition, fitness, hydration, and well-being. Well-being covering, whether it be stress management, psychological, mental health, PTSD, all those kinds of things. And so they have access to those different pieces within the mobile app. So you can log hydration, you can log nutrition, you can build recipes, you can share those recipes, you can select from a huge variety from our fitness library that we have actually built ourselves that have workout programs and stretching and flexibility and truck driver daily preparation routines that's really built for that medium, right? So we're not necessarily trying to turn a trucker into a bodybuilder or a marathoner. We're trying to teach a trucker how their body can move again. You talk to a lot of truckers after they've been doing it for a couple of years, and I can't run, I can't walk, my knee, my hip, my shoulder. I get it. I was out there. I spent 10 years in a truck. I'm not somebody who tried driving. I'm a veteran driver. And so, we get it. And so we built modules that really focus on, the joints, mobility, getting the hips in the right position. And how do you do things like, pull your fifth wheel pin, crank your landing gear, pull your hood, climb in and out of the truck and do these things without the risk of injury. Or how do you feel good enough at the end of the day to walk a mile or two at the truck stop, or when you get home on the weekend, feel energetic enough to go play with your kids in the yard, which is important stuff. It's important to feel good and healthy when you get home to your family, so you can spend active time with them and inspire them too, possibly. So those are five main tools that we give them, but there's a lot of things within those tools, all of which people earn points for. And as they earn points, they can cash them in for rewards. But then we have Rolling Strong Games, which is a whole nother really vertical of our business that allows us to create competitions between individuals, between groups, between locations, between companies. We run industry competitions, and we've been very fortunate to have wonderful sponsors that sponsor these competitions with prizes. We've done competitions where, we've had several hundred people involved in them, and we have winner brackets like age group and gender and experience level on the app and so on and so forth.
You were talking about the reward system. What type of rewards do you offer to members?
Oh gosh, it's everything from company swag all the way up to vacations. I mean, it can be anything that so when we work with a carrier, for instance, we let them define a rewards budget, and then our account managers are very creative coming up with things that make sense, whether it be microwaves or Instapots or TVs or jackets or running shoes or wearables is a big one. We give a lot of really nice Garmin Fitbit wearables out, and so but then you also have companies that we have awards brackets that go through the year, and so those end of year prizes can include $500, $1,000, so some pretty hefty prizes, because if from an employer perspective, if an employee has actually moved and their numbers and their blood pressure is under 120 over 80, if their fasting glucose is on target, if their mobility is in the right position, if they've walked a 500,000 steps, if they've actually done these things, then you have a healthier employee, which there is a return, and it's worth it. If we're giving them claims bonuses, sign-on bonuses, end of year bonuses, then give them something for being healthy, because there is a return on having a driver that's going to spend less time at the doctor or the pharmacy getting hurt or potentially having a catastrophic accident.
It's nice that you're having a system where you're concentrated on fitness, number one, and it's geared toward the driver, and you have this platform that can be integrated into a fleet management system, and it allows guidance and coaching, and not only for that particular driver's profile, but it takes into account where they're at, and also their work status too. So having that type of detail for a driver to maintain his health is a great thing, and I'm pretty sure it leads to much success for the members that are in it. And I'm pretty sure with that success, there's a lot of success stories that you hear, and I'm pretty sure that's like a shot in the arm for you.
Yeah, well, we love it. I mean, I love seeing success with the drivers, and they've been our drivers that have changed their lives. We have drivers that have lost 100 pounds, that have gotten blood pressure under control. we have a huge focus on the DOT certification. So we actually have a program that gives reminders, automated reminders, 90 days, 60 days, 30 days before it. They can engage in a preparation program for their recertification, and that's a big deal to drivers, is to get that full 2-year card. But yeah, I mean, as far as the results, I mean, on our website, rollingstrong.com, if you click on testimonials, you'll see literally hundreds of testimonials from drivers and executives, from both, that have used our program, that have had massive impacts on their lives. And we talk to them directly. I mean, I still, spend time talking with drivers. I have drivers that have my number. They'll call me, they'll text me. Our coaches are constantly talking to these folks. So as much as we focus on the initial kind of interview and the goal setting and, those changes along the way, we're also focused on celebrating the results, but, with the driver population, we also, there are very specific things that we can look at, so look, truck drivers are people. So it's not like they're, we always are like, it's got to be truck for truck drivers. I mean, they're not aliens, right? They're, they're like me and you. I mean, they're people, and they have challenges and all that good stuff. And so, but some of the things that are a focus area for us are, number one, they're sedentary, right? More hours. So 11 hours of driving, 14 hours of on duty, 10-hour break. And so, the regulation around their lifestyle is different, right? Because if you're at the office, you can get up and go to water cooler, you can walk around the building at lunch, all these things. You can stop by Fresh Market, Whole Foods, you can go to Planet Fitness. A truck driver, they're behind the wheel for 11 hours. That's sedentary. Their joints and the tendons and ligaments that connect the muscles to the bones and that surround them joints, they're very tight. And so you can't just put them into an intense workout. So we really, have a slow approach that gets them to engage, to loosen up those tendons and ligaments and muscles, and then engage them properly so they can get better mobility. Caffeine is a big one. They're drinking more caffeine and energy drinks than they are drinking water. And H2O is like the most underestimated problem, in the body system. People don't drink enough water, and water is responsible for cognitive thinking, for, the way we break down and metabolize the calories that we eat. There's so much to it, and it actually can cause, restlessness and being tired. And if you're drinking energy drinks on the last 10th or 11th hour of your run to try to make it through, how can you expect to jump in your bunk, and get sleep, so there's things that are specific to drivers, planning your route. If you get in your truck and you're going to drive from New York to California, you're going to look at the map and you're going to plan the best way to do that. And when there's road construction, you're going to, figure it out. You're going to look at the map. You're going to find the best detour based on the height and weight and everything. Well, when you're planning to get in your truck and drive, you should be doing the same thing with your food. Put things in your truck that make sense. That's not going to get you in trouble. When you're hungry and you've been running long and you go into a truck stop, it's very easy with the sea of junk food that's found in most truck stops to grab the wrong things. So prepare for your trip. Make sure you have, good supplies of things that make sense for you to eat based on, your dietary plan, your macro restrictions. And also it's important for drivers not to eat too heavy, to break it down into smaller meals, because what happens when you eat heavy? If I eat a big meal, even for lunch, right, and I get in the truck or on my couch or I sit at my office desk, I'm going to get tired within an hour. It's just too much. My body's working too hard. So, we even focus on what you eat and how much you eat and when, in relation to hours of service.
In times like these, it's crucial to stay informed. Transport Topics is offering all the information you need to make business decisions in these unprecedented times. And in the wake of the many event cancellations and group gatherings, TT ensures a virtual way to consume business content and conversation. To join the conversation and stay ahead of the news, follow Transport Topics on all social outlets or by visiting ttn.ws/stay informed.
The past year has been anything but business as usual for the largest private motor carriers in North America. Private fleets face stiffer and stiffer competition for quality drivers, while freight demand continues to increase. In this episode, we highlight how appreciating drivers will help you retain your talent. But what about keeping up with freight demands? How do you recruit the drivers you need to keep up with the current e commerce boom? Find answers in the 2021 Transport Topics Top 100 Private Carriers. In this year's publication, my co host Seth Clevenger dives deep into the issues facing private fleets. He surveys 2021's volatile business conditions and profiles the fleets that come out on top. For the full story and complete list of top 100 carriers, visit ttn.ws slash private 2021. That's ttn.ws slash private 2021. One of the things that I wanted to talk with you about before we let you go is you were just explaining just some of the things that the truckers are doing, such as, intaking more water and hydration fluids, and you've been at this a long time. And, when you had started this overall, what are some of the things, as you were starting Rolling Strong and just kind of being cognizant of being fit and healthy, what are some of the things that you're seeing that, other than, drinking water and being aware of health, what are those things that you see that are helping drivers in their overall health and fitness? And then what are some of those other things that you're seeing that can use improvement when it comes to health and fitness?
Yes, that's a great question. So, number one, accountability is a huge piece of anytime, if you've already digressed, if you're already a person who's not in that great a shape or has, challenges with some comorbidity, it's, obviously doing it on your own. People or the family system that's around you may not be, the encouragement you need, and you might not have the accountability. So, for me, kind of going back to, when I was talking about, my big turnaround, having my coach was huge. Being vulnerable enough to say, you know what, I don't have the answers as much as I think I know because I was a high school football star or a boxing coach or, like whatever it is, like, I'm at a point where I need to be vulnerable enough to listen to somebody else and be accountable. And so the coach for me was a big deal. And if a coach is doing their job right, they're listening and they're really hearing what your challenges are. And they're not going to just give you everything all at once. I think that's, a lot of people are like, this Sunday I'm changing my life, right? Well, that's a tough thing to do. So, I found that, making a change at a time was better for me, right? I change something, I do it consistently, I build that habit, and then I'd add something else and then I'd build that habit. It took us a long time to get to where we are, and it's not going to change in a month because we've jumped on, the bandwagon of a fad diet. And so, having that coach and being vulnerable enough to allow that accountability in your life is a big deal. For me, like personally, I was a carbaholic, right? And so I was always on this yo-yo of it's either I'm eating a lot of carbs because I love my grandmother's pasta, or I'm not going to eat any carbs at all because I heard that that's not what you're supposed to do. Well, now I eat ample carbs. I just eat the right kind of carbs for my body at the right time of day. Look, that I would love to say that there's like this silver bullet for this, that there's this perfect fad diet or this exercise routine that's going to change your life, but it's education. It's learning about yourself, your body, your challenges, and being vulnerable enough to listen to somebody that knows a little bit more than you do about health education, about handling comorbidities and chronic issues, and allowing them to give you a little bit of guidance and setting those small goals. So for me, my first goal was simply to lose 10 pounds and complete a 5K. I mean, that's all I was trying to do. I never thought in a million years that I'd be competing in an Ironman 3 years later. So and so another unique thing about me, and I did this for a couple different reasons, but my girlfriend and I, we bought a 44-foot RV and a big truck, and we're going to live on the road for a couple of years, and so I'm now out and about again with the drivers. I'm 44 feet long. I'm 65 feet long with the truck. I'm just a tad bit shorter. I'm just as high. I'm just as wide. I'm pulling through the fuel lanes. I'm shopping in the truck stops. Um, And so one of the other things that always comes to mind is, it's on the mobility piece. When I stop that thing and I'm at a fuel station, those big yellow barriers that they have in the front and back of that fuel, walk away from your fuel. But you can certainly do some great stretches on the step of your truck around those yellow barriers that are there and open up your hips and your body so that, that tightness and that restriction doesn't start to occur. Those are, and so it's not just the idea of doing that, it's making the commitment. Your first goal can simply be, what, every time I stop my truck to fuel, I'm going to spend that 10 minutes also doing some stretches to open up my body a little bit. And doing that will make you look at what you buy for food when you go into that truck stop differently because you took a few minutes to create the mindfulness, the awareness that you want to take care of your body. And when you walk in there, a Snickers bar is not going to look as appealing. Um, so it's just, how it is. Look, if you go into the gym, as soon as you start working out, you start eating a little better. It's a mindset. But I hope that answers your question about, for me and what, specifically I did. I mean, I started running. I mean, I ran a half mile and then I had to walk. Then I was able to run a mile and then I had to walk. I learned about balancing, my macronutrients where it wasn't such an extreme. I mean, yes, I eat carbohydrates. My body likes glycogen. I like to have a glycogen store when I go out for a run. It feels good to eat a bowl of fruit after a big run. I don't eat, processed carbohydrates. I don't eat a lot of them simple carbs. I eat fortified carbs. I eat things that are, building blocks. And again, it's education. So be vulnerable enough to listen to somebody. You don't have to, you know, you don't have to go into this thinking you're going to be a marathoner or a bodybuilder or anything like that. But I promise you, if you are vulnerable enough to listen and you establish some short term goals and you just start putting one foot in front of the other, you will feel better. You will not ache as much when you get in and out of that truck. You will not feel as tired when you get home and your kid wants to play football out in the yard for a few minutes. You will feel rested when you wake up and you're getting ready to start back on that 11-hour drive.
Those are wonderful life hacks you got there. Especially going to the truck stop and you're doing a few stretches. I mean, that's just, good advice, whether you're a commercial driver or you're just taking your family on a long vacation trip. That's tremendous advice. Uh, we've been speaking with Stephen Kane, president and creator of the Rolling Strong Wellness platform. Stephen, it's been great having you on. I learned a lot just from the fact of working out and staying healthy, because it's like you had mentioned, it's a game of vulnerability, and it's also a game of consistency, where those little things that you're doing, just watching what you eat, making those short-term goals for yourself, leads into some great progress in the long term. Thank you for coming on to Road Signs and making us smarter.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. And, with driver appreciation coming up, I certainly want to give a shout out to the drivers out there.
Did you know you can ask Alexa to open Transport Topics? In just 1 minute, you will hear the biggest trucking headlines of that day. Be prepared and start your morning off right with Transport Topics.
Before we close, let's take a moment to revisit our original question. What can truck drivers do to stay healthy around their busy schedules? First, a big thank you to Stephen Kane for joining us on Road Signs. As part of our Trucker Appreciation Series, we first wanted to take a look at driver health and how fleet companies and drivers themselves can be proactive in their physical and mental fitness. Driving long hours takes a toll on the mind and body, and having a plan and solid foundation of understanding health and nutrition goes a long way in reaching anyone's fitness goals. As Kane explained, having a support group like the service provided by Rolling Strong and other wellness platforms are key to helping those seeking a better lifestyle. Also, his personal story of how he overcame unhealthy habits to become an advocate for fitness and helping others to succeed is truly inspiring. No matter what industry you belong to, being in a position to help others change their lives for the better has an ultimate and continuing return on investment. If you enjoyed this episode of Road Signs, please let others know. Rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you listen to podcasts. If my questions have sparked questions of your own, share them with the Road Signs team or reach me on Twitter at Michael V. Fries. You can email us at share@ttnews.com. We'll read them and respond daily. And of course, we'll be back in 2 weeks with a new episode from our Trucker Appreciation Month series. Until then, I'm Michael Freeze. Thank you for listening.